Hello, everybody. Come on in. This is Romonica Jones. We are here at the office today. We're going to hop right in. We're on Facebook Live. We are also on Periscope Live. Want you all to definitely visit our website. I don't want to do anything for Facebook that I don't turn around and do for that I also don't do for Periscope. So we're going to be fair on both videos today. We are going to definitely try to be as brief as possible. I am Romonica Jones. I am your midnight midwife to several people, but I am also your licensed counselor, okay? Today we have actually just launched our training. It is our Psychology Today training, okay? We've just launched our Psychology Today training. Thank you, Mr. Hollis. He's just a bomb.com. Just great people, okay? And I want to let you all know a little bit about our agency. Right now, Hernando, what's up? Come on in. Welcome in. Welcome in. This is Romonica Jones, and our agency is Eclectic Counseling Services. Okay, so we are located at 6305 Elysian Fields Avenue, right across from the University of New Orleans. Okay, our agency has been established since 2013, and we have a great crew. We have great staff members that's also going to be joining in on our training today. Okay, I also have a nonprofit counseling agency. Hey, Hernando, what's up? What's up? Welcome. I also have a nonprofit organization where we do a lot of spiritual things, okay? So it is my aim to make sure that I keep the line very thin. So when we're doing Psychology Today, I'm just going to focus on being your licensed counselor. We're going to try to separate the spiritual things with our nonprofit, which is Live Blessed Global Ministries, and we're going to only put focus and emphasis on counseling things, okay? Who is these trainings for? What? These trainings are for you. Number one, if you are interested in being a client at our agency, I want to let you all know that this is how we roll, okay? So these are a lot of the techniques that we're going to be using. These are a lot of the techniques that we discuss. This is what we staff with our counselors. So a lot of our counselors will even be joining in, and so we all try to make sure that we're definitely on the same page, okay? So if you are interested in being a client, another reason why this is for you, because you might consider doing case management. You might consider being a counselor. So, you're just kind of sitting in on the classes to see out right now, what do they do differently than what we're already doing, okay? Or what can we take away from this? So it is for people who want to go into this counseling field, this counseling major. And this is also for, the women as well as the men that are on the walls at their home, okay? So if you're raising a child and you want to know, okay, what do I need to be in tune with? What differences do I need to know about? I'm raising a family, or I'm in ministry, or, I want to consider getting my own counseling agency. What do I need to have my eyes open? If I'm a teacher, what do I need to be paying attention to, that can give me some cues as well as some clues of when I need to, respond, jump in, okay? So this is also for our concerned parents. It's for those people who are just the pillar of their community, who need a little bit more hands-on education than just, maybe a 1-hour training that we might agree to go to at work, once or twice a year. So I've already showed y'all for the entrepreneurs. We like to throw something out there for them. We like to give back and reach back. For the entrepreneurs, the first thing you want to do is develop your brochure, okay? You want to have a defined identity. When people ask you, well, what do you do? And this is not just in counseling. This can be in hair. This can be in makeup. This can be in even, designing, you want to have a defined identity, and that needs to be defined in your brochure, in your cards, your mission statement, what it is that you all represent. Eclectic counseling services. Hey, Sheena. Hey, Chanel. Hey, love y'all. Eclectic counseling, the definition of eclectic means deriving counseling methods, ideas, or styles from a broad and diverse range of sources. So eclectic means that, it's different, it's broad, it's a range of different things. There is times where, of course, we like to incorporate our clients' health into their mental health. So we take more of a coordinated system approach to how we care for our clients here. So if we have a client that has high blood pressure, if we have a client, who's gotten some bad reports or some high reports from the doctor, there is even times where we will actually do our counseling sessions with them at the park while we're walking together with them. So as we're walking that park and they're also tending to their physical health, we're also, discussing mental things, what's going on at home, or how are you dealing with this social issue? How are you dealing with that? So the key thing about this field, counseling or whatever other field that you go into, is to just be who you are, be authentically you. There is a lot of textbooks that will tell you who to be or who you should be, but none of those things come off as authentic or as effective. It does not come across as more effective than you just being you. So the tech books are to give you a structure. They are to give you a foundation if you don't have one. But one of the biggest things that we believe here in our agency is that the biggest way to grow and the biggest way to become a better counselor to your clients is by becoming a better person for yourself, your family members, your community, and everything else. If you have not overcome issues in your own life, then it's going to be very, very hard for you to push someone else or to teach someone else how to overcome the various issues, or even how to identify when they are dealing with issues in their own life. So the truth is, as many trainings as we go to, the biggest training is, what do you do within yourself? Having introspection, having insight, improving yourself, getting better each day, striving to become a better person, and dealing with those inner issues that we don't always lay out in the table, for other people to see. But it doesn't mean that we don't know that those issues are there, okay? So that is just some foundation work that we're going to keep separate, our spirituality from our counseling. So if I do kind of emerge the lanes, I want y'all to tap on the screen and say, wait a minute, Ms. Jones, get it together. It's not that type of scope. Being your authentic self, just using different tools and different techniques in order to reach your clients. The textbooks are not to draw a bridge or a gap or a wall between you and your clients. The textbooks there are to facilitate a foundation. So if you already have a foundation, be yourself, be innovative, use different techniques. You're going to love it. It's going to grow you. It's going to stretch you as a person. It's going to stretch you as a counselor, and it's going to actually get real-time results from your clients, okay? The first thing that we're going to just jump right into, and we actually have actual posts of this, so we probably will tune into our laptop as well so that you can see this. But a lot of things that we overlook, sometimes we overlook the everyday things in being counselors or case managers, okay? Sometimes we get a crisis call, you're hopping in your car, you're on your way there, and, you're not, our mind is so focused on the crisis, or is so focused on documenting correctly, or did we use the right therapy technique? Are we going to be able to staff this with our supervisor? Our mind is like way ahead of the game, but we have missed out on what gets us from one scene to the next scene. Okay, what gets us off of your office desk to that client's house, or what gets you from when you get ready to do the assessment. We're so hyped on, do we have the right packages, do we have the right address, to where we're missing the steps in between. All right, and the key steps from getting from one location to the next is proper safety driving techniques. All right. And the reason why that's important is because whether you're dealing with it from a therapeutic standpoint or even a spiritual standpoint, driving is what gets you from one place to the next. Okay, so it can be literally driving, or it can be emotional, how to get that client from one state to the next state, or it can even be spiritual, however that you want to say it. Okay, but driving is not anything that we are to take lightly. And the reason why we don't put a lot of emphasis on it is because we're so used to caring for our clients, we're so used to caring for other people, that we forget that our lives matter too. What happens if the case manager gets into, a fatal accident on the way to the client's house? Well, if we never make it there, then we're not able to be any good for that client, for that crisis, or even to write the progress note, or to staff the case, or to get the key details of what happened in that home. So safety driving is just all the way live important. Okay, I'm going to show you all some techniques here, just some statistics, so that you all can see that we actually have gotten this information from somewhere. It says in 2010 motor vehicle crashes overview, in 2010, there was 32,885 people died in motor vehicle traffic crashes. Okay, so these are actually, this is not just something that we came up with and say, let's start the training today on driving. What's the easiest thing to talk about? Because as a natural counselor, you'll find that there's a whole lot more easier things to discuss, okay, than just driving, which is not something that we often discuss at all. I'm trying to get my Periscope people to be able to see the video. I don't think it's working out for them as well as it worked out for Facebook. But we just want to show the real-time statistics on here, and I don't think it's going to allow me to show it. I'm sorry, Periscope. But if you could have just heard with me, then you would be able to know that 32,885 people died in car crashes in the year of 2010. So we have to do some updating with our statistics. But of course, the car accidents happen because as case managers, we are on the go. A lot of us, we live out of our cars. We have our paperwork in our cars. We have our ID in our car. We have our cell phone charger because we're charging up the cell phone, making appointments in between one, assessment and the next assessment. So driving is important. And the reason why these car accidents are able to happen is because we get too common. We get too common in driving and talking on the phone with our client to try to calm them down before we get there. We get too common by rushing in the car and forgetting to get the address. So, we're putting the GPS system address in while we're driving and trying to stop at the red light. One thing that we as case managers have to realize is that our lives matter just as much as our clients' lives matter. It matters if we are feeling safe on the road. It is definitely important, number one, that we keep our car insurance up. That is an absolute definite. It's definitely important that, you're driving to safe places according to what time of day that it is. We don't want anybody in a dangerous, location late at night. And that's not just for our case managers, that's for our clients as well. We don't want our clients leaving their home, going to dangerous locations at night, because that can actually facilitate a crisis. Okay, so we want to be proactive in our approach and not just reactive in terms of how we respond to things. So, just making sure that, the seat belts are on, making sure that the basic things are covered, and that we understand that, we have to take time out to value ourselves before we can love other people, and before we can care about other people and check on other people's homes. We have to make sure that our home is secure and that we are safe. And the only way to do that is to take time out to remind ourselves about these things, such as driving, that we often forget. Okay. So driving safety techniques, let's just get to the meat of it. The reason why I was late, I do want to apologize, but we actually have a radio interview today, y'all, at 5 o'clock. We have a radio interview, so we're going to be on the radio. So if you can tune back in at 5 o'clock, that's going to be great. But I had to sync my schedule, such that the videos was coming back to back, and so that we don't have a big range in the differences of time. But I thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope that you're getting something out of this. We're going to cut to the meat, and we're going to wrap up, because we have 2 other videos that we have to shoot. One of them is spiritual, and one of them is a radio interview that we're going to be doing at a gospel station. So we want y'all to tune in, okay? So getting back to loving ourselves, caring for ourselves, and number 1, placing our safety first, okay? Driving safety techniques. The first major correction that we all have to fix, including myself, is distracted driving. Okay, that is what the teaching that we were able to research identified it as, distracted driving. That applies to everybody. Nobody is exempt. Sometimes as parents, we're fussing at the kids because they're putting their makeup on while they're driving, or they're looking at the TV or a video game while they're driving. And we think that, well, it's a teenage issue because they don't know how to multitask how we know how to multitask. And y'all, that is wrong. That is stereotyping. And we have to understand that distracted driving applies to all of us. It does not matter what age you are. It doesn't matter how long you have been driving. And the more accessible these things are to us while we're driving, the easier it is to become distracted. Whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, whether it's checking how many likes did you get on your picture that you posted up, with you and the guy or whomever, your husband, your boo. So, whatnot. So we, the more we're checking into those things, or sometimes, we even have it to where our emails go directly to our cell phone. So we're able to get that alert, or we're able to get different notifications. So the more, that social media is becoming accessible to us, and through these phones and these technological devices, the more we need to be cognizant that we are not driving distracted, okay? Because the danger in distracted driving, and this is something that I've had to deal with myself, and then we're going to move to the next issue. The danger in distracted driving is that the more you do it, the more you think that you're able to do it. So the more you're able to check Facebook and nothing happened, that's the more you begin to check Facebook and check Instagram and check your email address and call this person and let them know that you're on your way, and call your job to tell them that you're late. So the more you do it, the more you get accustomed to doing it. Okay. Hey, Miss Hill, bless you, lady. Welcome on in. Welcome. Thank you for coming. So the more you do it, the more you get accustomed to doing it. And that is is when, you know, an accident can come right in. So be very careful at different intersections. You know, there was a time where I had just went and got fast food, and of course I was checking this hot video because I'm like, you know, this video got how many views? You know, it was the top video, you know. And so what happened, matter of fact, it was about one of the authors whose book that I was reading. And they had a video on there. So I'm looking at the video, and right out of nowhere, because I was looking at my phone, I was able to see the car out of my peripheral vision. And out of nowhere, I hit the brakes just in time. But if I didn't have that phone, which was right here, right next to where I could see the peripheral vision, then it would have easily been a car accident, and I would have been in the wrong because I would have hit that person from the back. Now, the question that I had to ask myself is, if I had the phone right here, just like I have this tape, what if I had put the phone over here? So if I had put the phone over there, I would have never saw the car that was pulling out in front of me. And so that began to be an eye-opener for me. So what I want you all to do is begin to pay attention to signs like that. You know, when you barely made it, or, you know, they barely pumped on the brakes, or you barely saw them. Pay attention to that, because that became an eye-opener for me to say, you know what, Romonica, you need to put this phone down. This video is not that hot to where you're going to have to pay for damages on your vehicle and somebody else's vehicle. And then getting back to case management, now you're out from work for a little bit. Now you have to transfer your caseload to somebody else. Okay, and somebody else have to take over your cases, and you know that transportation is one of the key parts to our job. So just think about the financial dilemma that puts us in when we're having to depend on a family member for a ride, you know, to use their car so that we can get to our client's home, you know, or we having to depend on somebody while our car is in the shop so that we can go to work and do our jobs. You know, sometimes the very vehicle or the very tool that gets us from point A to point B, we take it for granted. And when we don't have it, we realize just how difficult it is to see our clients, number one, and number two, it places our life in jeopardy. And our agency is very big on, number one, being transparent, and number two, our agency, that's the radio interviewer calling me right now, and our agency is very big on, you know, just being honest, just keeping it real, so to speak. You know, how can we say that we care about our clients' well-being, but then we don't care enough about ourselves to put our seatbelt on? You know, what example are we actually showing the client? But even if the client never noticed it, what example are we taking home with ourselves that we know it? So when you don't when you don't place yourself in safe environments, it's because we lack esteem towards ourselves. We lack value. We don't value ourselves to think enough of ourselves to keep us safe, to place our safety first, okay? And so if we're not living that day to day, if we're not operating in authenticity and honesty and truthfulness to where, look, we're going to be safe, you know, we're going to make sure that we leave in time. That's one thing that I got to work on. You know, we have to make sure that we're not leaving at the last minute, because when you're leaving at the last minute, you're driving 80 miles per hour trying to hurry up and get to that appointment, you know, within 10 minutes, when really we should have left 30 minutes ago. So if we're going to actually if we're going to actually talk this talk, we definitely have to walk it out. And the way we have to walk it out is by loving ourselves, caring about ourselves, placing ourselves, you know, at high value and at high priority, to where even if you have had things that came up at the last minute, you might have to call that client before you leave and say, hey, Miss Ma'am, I'm going to be late. I'm going to be 5 minutes late. I don't want to get in an accident. I don't want to run a red light. I just want to let you know that I've kind of mismanaged a little time, or another appointment went over a little bit longer. But don't worry, I'm going to be on my way. So that you can put yourself at peace, and so that we're not going to those sessions out of breath, looking around to see who saw us run the red light and we're not supposed to. So, it's just kind of putting things in perspective, okay? So when you value yourself and when you live a life where you place your safety and your family and your mode of transportation at high priority, then it becomes very easy to convey that to your clients. It becomes hard to convey something that we don't do. It's like a fake image or a false image. But when you actually do value yourself, when we value ourselves enough to leave on time, put our seatbelt on, and take care of our own safety, then it becomes very easy for us to convey a level of esteem, a level of value, and a level of respect to those clients, because they're not just hearing us talk the talk, they're actually seeing us walk that thing out, okay? And when people see you walk it out, that breeds authenticity, and authenticity is the game changer. It makes people move. It causes an effect, because people realize, wow, you really can live in a world where you love yourself, you value yourself. It's like, okay, I put my seatbelt on. I care about my safety. So when they see you doing that, then your clients begin to say, well, you know what? Well, if she loves herself like that, or if he loves himself like that, well, why am I hanging out late at night at 1 o'clock in the morning in unsafe environments? So they're able to process that for themselves. Why don't I love myself enough to hang with, good friends that love me and respect me, that's not doing drugs, that's not trying to push me over the edge? So they're able to internalize that in their own lives as they see us mimic that in our lives, okay? So it may seem like, oh, she's just going too deep, she's just, she's on one. That's just way too deep. But you know what? You never can tell what is going to click for a client. And gone away are the days when the parents used to tell us, do as I say and not as we do. Your children today are watching what you do. They're watching if your seatbelt is on. They're watching if you're jamming to the radio and not paying attention to the road. So when you get ready to teach them to drive, understand that a lot of those habits that they have picked up are from habits that we are showing them. Even with me laughing, that's right there. Somebody is saying, well, wow, she's not taking that serious. So we do have to watch how we convey things to other people, because people are not only watching what you say, they're not only watching what you're doing, but they're also watching your body language. Okay, so that was a great example. Research studied the proclivity and accessibility of distracted driving. So as we've already discussed before, that there is an easy accessibility to be distracted when you're driving. Distracted to car accidents, distracted to new construction. That's new buildings that's being built. People are constantly calling. Text messaging is a distraction, and a lot of times we don't ever want to be the type of people that have to experience something in order for us to learn from it. Okay, I will never forget a minister preached, and he made a statement, and I'm not going to mix the two, but he made a statement. He said, you know what? He would love to learn from other people, and he said the reason why he learned from other people is because he's not going to live long enough to make every mistake on his own for himself. So let's learn from people, who have lost their lives through text messaging. And that is the reason why text messaging has become law. Like I said, let's pay attention, like I said, when that phone was right there, it was stationed to where I could see that car. But lo and behold, what if it was on the other side? I could have completely missed that, okay? I have a close friend. Thank y'all for the love. I love y'all right back. Okay, if you're on Periscope, tap the screen and heart me up. Show me some love. Show us some love here at Eclectic Counseling Services, right? I have a close friend. Her name is Miss Pam, and she does a lot of contract work with us. And, Miss Pam, if you send her a text message, during work hours when she's driving from one appointment to the next thing that the next notification you're going to get on your phone is, I am driving. Text messaging is not worth a life. And so when I get that text message back, it reminds me, you know what, Romonica, we do need to be mindful. So, have your reminders that you horn into. That's another thing that we do in counseling as well. If on your GPS system, it might tell you do not operate this system while you're driving. So let that be your conscious trigger to say, you know what, let's stay focused. Let's get here safely. I have a home that I have to go back to, whether I'm a case manager or a counselor or not. Let's get there safely. And guess what? Let's make it back home. Let's get to this house and let's make it back to that office. So if we can fixate our minds on certain triggers that can remind us not to take distracted driving lightly, then let's fixate on that so that when we see those triggers, whether it's a text message from a friend that's constantly, reminding you to be on your P's and Q's, whether it is the emblem on your GPS system that says do not operate while driving, let that be a reminder that, we do have to be conscious and cognizant, right? Targeted age groups for this. Now, this is the targeted age group for distracted driving is anywhere from 17 to 26. All right. But we know that, we are young, well in our 60s. So that is not just limited to the 26-year-olds. However, if you do have a client that is in that age group, or if you do have a child that is in that age group and you know that they're preparing to drive, definitely have this very same conversation with them, because they're in that generation of social media and it's been around for them since they were born. They were able to do text messages and different apps on your phone. So because they've so indoctrinated in that, that might be why they're so prone, to use those social media devices, as easy as rolling down the windshield, on the car. Okay. So, definitely target them in your conversation. Driving protocol. Now, if you do drive clients, okay, number one, that is left to each individual agency. It's left to each individual office. Okay, so wherever you work as a case manager or clients, wherever you receive your services at, whatever agency, then there should be driving protocol in place. All right, that driving protocol, number one, should be a form that discusses the liability. Okay, so we never wait until an accident happened in order to discuss what happens when an accident happened. So we like to be proactive. We want to handle that in a legal stance. It needs to be a form that's going to discuss the liability. Generally, if clients are driving with counselors, be careful to read those forms, because those forms are generally going to make a statement to say pretty much in summary that you're driving at your own risk. Okay, so if you're driving somewhere with that counselor as clients, they are driving for the most part, according to what that form is saying, that they are driving at their own risk. So sometimes, you might think, well, we're going to this appointment together, whether it's a doctor's appointment, whether it's a school, somebody got suspended from school, so you're going back to the school together to see what's going on, but if anything was to happen, think, are you able to handle the risk of something taking place during that drive? Okay, so that's another reason why we want to place focus on this. That's the reason why we chose this topic for today, safety driving, because it is more important, number one, when you're driving yourself, but then it becomes double the importance when you are driving other clients, when you're bringing them to court, or you're bringing them to school, or you're bringing them to the doctor, because you have somebody else's child, somebody else's, mother, that is in your care at your risk. So you definitely have to make sure that you're not accustomed to being distracted while you're driving, while they are driving with you. Okay, because that can open up a legal can, that can open up lawsuit, that can open up, a change in the therapeutic relationship. So here it is, you've built this trust, you all are getting along fine, and then out of nowhere, this car accidents happen, and it's like, okay, well, where do we stand now in terms of our case management or our therapeutic relationship? Is it, the counselor against the client, or the client against the counselor? So in order to avoid that, as we stated before, you want to take a proactive measure to this. Number one, you want to already have seat belts on deck. Okay, it's just the number one rule. Put your seatbelt on. Number two, every distraction needs to be taken away. And trust me, I don't have all the answers. If you all want to write some comments in, please write them in. I will read them out loud, because I would love to have feedback from you all, because I'm learning about these things as well. So I don't sit in the seat of knowing it all, because trust me, that is farthest from the truth. Okay, so one, seat belts. Number two, every distraction needs to be checked. Okay, if it is cutting the volume down on the radio, and making sure that if you are listening to the radio, make sure that it's something that your clients are comfortable with listening to as well. Just respecting, who they are as a person, just being mindful in all things. Okay, so, cutting down the distractions of the radio, cutting down distractions in terms of text messages, phone calls, using the GPS system, in the midst of driving. If you have to reroute your GPS locator, go ahead and pull over. It's better to be safe than to be sorry, okay? At that time, you're not necessarily catering to the needs of your client in terms of them saying, well, look, we're supposed to be there at this time, or we need to get there right now. It's not about, getting someplace at a certain time. It's about making it there, period. Whole, in one piece, healed, healthy, safety, not only for yourself, but the person that you might also be driving as well. Okay, so cutting down every distraction, pulling over. It's not about, well, I'm gonna be late. That's okay if we're late, because we understand that clients do have the option, to receive their own transportation as well. And so also having other transportation options available, so if you're not able to do it, and if that is something that your agency promotes, making sure that you have somebody that is backed up to where they might be able to bring that person somewhere. If that person is not available, then Medicaid does have a transportation system. So they do have a contact number where you're able to contact that Medicaid transportation van, and that client can still get to where they need to be from point A to point B in terms of making it to their doctor visits, hopefully school visits. They can arrange transportation with family members, friends, with support systems, different things like that, okay? One of the reasons why support systems are important to establish is for this reason. You know, there might be a time where as case managers, you're dealing with another case, or you're in court with somebody else, or you're in the hospital with someone else. You want to be able to, when your client calls you, you want to be able to locate a support person, a person in their support system that has transportation, you know, to say, well, look, this person is a part of your support system because they can get you from point A to point B. So when we're identifying support systems for our clients, we're not just doing that in case of a crisis come. Well, this is who you're going to call in the midst of a crisis. It's also for those non-crisis situations. You know, well, this is who you're going to call. You're going to call Miss So-and-so if you need a ride to the grocery store. Or you're going to call, you know, your cousin, whomever, if you need a ride or transportation to go back to school. You know, you're going to call Mr. So-and-so, and I'm not calling any names because this is strictly confidential, but you're going to call Mr. So-and-so, you know, if you need a ride here. So when we are identifying these support systems, transportation is to be built into that support system so that it takes the strain off of that counselor, okay, to where you're not the only support system if your agency promotes that. And also, you know, like we stated before, you know, distractions, you know, eliminated, seat belts, car insurance, identification, registration, everything that the law is going to need, as well as your form, you know, that needs to be filled out and it needs to be updated. A lot of forms expire after a year. So one thing that you want to be cautious of, if somebody did sign a transportation form, you know, if they signed that form 2 years ago, if a car accident took place, you know, is that form still valid? You know, so you want to keep that form updated, all right? So, you know, once a year, maybe once every 6 months, because it's for your safety as well as the client's safety. Another thing, the counselor, it would be beneficial if the counselor reviewed that form with the client. So not just, you know, telling them what the form is and having them to sign it, but actually sit down and talk about the bullet points. So that way they can make a sound decision should they take public transportation, should they allow us to make arrangements through Medicaid transportation, which we will definitely do that. Should we get somebody else in their support system to do it? You know, but they need to be very clear on what that form is saying so that if anything did happen in terms of a car accident, they don't feel as if, wow, I didn't know, you know, that this is what was on the form that I was reading. So, you know, just in order to maintain that healthy therapeutic relationship so that your client know that they can trust you, that they know that, of course, no one is pulling a fast one on them, sitting down and reading the bullet points on that transportation form so that they are equally familiar with it as well as yourself. So seat belts, legal, you know, traffic laws need to be reviewed, you know, understanding when you're actually driving in a lane where you can pass. You know, we know that when it's dotted, you know, you can pass, but sometimes it'll show a sign that says no passing, and you're like, well, wait a minute, it's dotted, you know. But still understanding that we have to be cognizant of the traffic laws. You know, if the line is dotted, generally you are able to pass, but you have to be looking for the signs to say whether you can or whether you cannot. If it is a solid line, it is guaranteed that you're not supposed to pass that line. In addition to that, I would encourage everybody to have a GPS system, because one of the most dangerous things is to be driving in an area that you're not familiar with and you don't know where you're going. You know, there's a lot of times that I have done that in New Orleans, and, you know, I didn't have my GPS system on. I just had some handwritten directions. And when you don't know where you're going verbatim, you know, somebody to tell you, go to this stop sign, make a left, go down this street, then make a right. When you don't have that type of order, number one, it pushes back your assessments, where you're late on your assessments or you're late on your counseling sessions. And we're not trying to ruffle any feathers, you know, because some people don't mind you being late. And guess what, y'all? Some people do. It depends on the personality. So, but number two, the danger of that is because I was not familiar with the area. I didn't know, well, this is a one-way or this is, you know, a two-way. So I found myself not being familiar with the area, not knowing where I was going, and I found myself going the opposite direction into oncoming traffic because I didn't know that it was a one-way. You know, so, you know, sometimes, y'all, we overestimate the fact that, oh, we've been driving for a long time, you know, this is, you know, we have this, we're old in the game or whatever. But you'll be surprised that when you're learning a new area, you are just as new to that area as a person with a driver's permit. Okay, so, you know, it's one way if you take that, it's one thing if you take that route to work every day. But if you're going to a client house that you don't know and it's an area that you're not familiar with, well, then guess what? You've just lost, you know, seniority privileges, because it's no longer, I've been driving a long time, I know how to get there. No, this is a new place that you're going to, and you're just as new to this as a person with a driver's permit. So we have to release that pride, be humble, and really, you know, invest in a GPS system that can tell us which way is one ways, which way are two ways, and, you know, if there is construction, how we can still get to that client's home, you know, without having a breakdown because we run, you know, into some orange cones or some, you know, some tapered off, you know, locations. So being mindful of the traffic laws. Of course, the best thing is to just stop at yellow. You know, just stop at yellow. You know, a lot of times when your clients are driving with you, they're watching, you know, how you're driving. And it says how much you care about them, that you're willing to take your time, that you're willing to argue with them to make sure that their seatbelt is on, okay, or to threaten not to drive them if they're not going to drive legal. You know, and they do interpret that as love, okay? So when you stop at the yellow light, you know, they don't always take that, oh, well, he's being slow or she's being slow. Sometimes they're like, wow, this person really do care about my well-being, and it makes them feel safe while they're driving with you, and it also makes them feel safe with you as a person because they know that you're not going to do anything that is outside of their better interest. Okay, in counseling, a lot of times different things mean different things. All right. I know that didn't help you, it probably confused you, but if I am the counselor and you're driving in the car with me, and if I run that yellow light, or if I speed up and then the light turn red and I run through it, well, that just tells me that, wow, that tells you, wow, this lady, you know, you know, I don't trust her to take me driving, and I don't trust her in counseling sessions. She's not safe. She's not doing what's in my best interest. Another thing, fast drivers. Okay, for all y'all Speedy Gonzalez people, fast drivers are risk takers, okay? And risk takers, you know, usually a risk-taking personality is going to war against the stability, you know, that people are looking for. Risk takers are not stable. They make overnight decisions. They go with the wind. They're risk takers. So, you know, the way your driving style, I want us all to pay attention to our driving style. And I want us to be able to share next time, how does that, you know, speak of our personality type, okay? If you wait at the yellow light, if you make sure you look past on the railroad tracks and you stop at the stop signs and look both ways, then you are a stable person. You are sound. You are a person of order. You are a person of order. So it also speaks of your personality. And these clients, or our clients, they can read your personality, and they know if there is stability in your personality, if there is trustworthiness in your personality, if there is sound decision making in your personality. And if you're not able to make a sound decision to stop at that yellow light before it turns red, well, then a lot of clients will look at it like, well, if you can't make a sound decision in terms of stopping at the light, well, how can you help me make sound decisions in my life in terms of helping me to raise my children or to deal with complicated issues at school? So always know, y'all, that your clients are watching, and they are interpreting things, and they're interpreting your behavior, and they're reading your behavior just as well as you are reading theirs. See, I got y'all. Y'all did not know that all of this was in safety driving techniques. Y'all thought this was a dry, boring training that she just came up with out of nowhere. And y'all like, what did that have to do with counseling? What does that have to do with mental health? But it has everything to do with mental health in terms of how you love and value and take care of yourself, in terms of how you love, value, and care for the clients that you're working with on the daily basis. They're able to see your love in action based on how safe you drive them and carry them from one location to the next. Tells your ability of how you're able to bring them in therapy from one situation or one emotional state or one victory to the next. Okay, so not only in terms of physical, but how you drive them in their emotions, or from one success, or treatment goal to the next one as well. It also tells, about your personality. Are you a risk taker? Are you a sound decision maker? Are you easily distracted? Because we know that easily distraction is one of the key things that comes along with ADHD. So are we teaching them that impulsivity is acceptable? That when we get a notification, we could be talking to them one moment, having a session while we're driving, but then we get a notification, all of a sudden we've stopped and we've pulled the phone out. Are we paying attention? Are we, checking our impulse control? Because the most effective way to reach our clients is by exhibiting that behavior authentically within ourselves. Okay, so avoid conversation consumptions. When you're driving, don't get so deep into what you're discussing or so deep into the emotions where it is still distracting you, or even on the phone. Be a defensive driver. So that means that you're also driving for other people. Okay, when that car got ready to pull out on me, now I was wrong for looking on the phone, and I was looking at it through my peripheral, but at the same time I stopped the car. But if we would have gotten into an accident, they would have been in the wrong. So even though I was wrong too. Okay, so be a defensive driver. Pay attention to those triggers. When your GPS system alerts you, don't set your system while you're driving. Let that be a trigger to say, okay, y'all, I have to make it home. I am somebody's child. I am valued. I am loved. As much as I'm pouring out into the community, I also am worthy of, getting myself from this point A to point B safely, because that's how much I exhibit love to myself as well. Okay, drivers, so I think that we are very clear, not to be on the cell phone, making appointments, talking, texting, eating, putting makeup on, being distracted and taking our vision off the road. So a lot of times, you all, how we are driving can also relate to how we are also driving in our everyday life as well. Okay, so when you have a goal in mind, are you easily distracted from your goals? When you set the goal to do your progress notes tonight, or I have to complete all my assessments tonight. Do I get sidetracked by what comes on TV? So a lot of times one area of your life can kind of infiltrate and spread light on another area in your life. Okay, so let's not be distracted, not just on the road in driving, but also in the road of life. Thank you all so much for tuning in to our first Psychology Today Eclectic Counseling Services training. We want you all to visit our website at www. That's eclectic. It's not electric. Eclectic is Eclectic Counseling Services. I want to thank all of our staff members for tuning in. I love you guys. I value you all. The staff members was like, y'all, where is the training? The training is running late. So when you all are on your game, it just prompts me that much more to be on mine. So I want to thank the staff members for coming in. This is our brochure. We are located at 6305 Elysian Fields Avenue, right across from the University of New Orleans. If you all are interested in our services, feel free to call us at our office phone and leave a very detailed message at 504-265-0996. And be sure to tune in next Tuesday at 2 p.m. where we will start the Psychology Today segment 2, and we'll start this all over again. So be encouraged as we're driving on our road, not to our location of just our appointments and our sessions and our, court appointments and our home visits. Not just, in those things, but also be encouraged on the road of life. Don't be distracted. Don't be discouraged. Don't be dismayed. Keep your eyes on the prize. Keep your eyes on the road, your eyes on the goal, and we will get there eventually. God bless you all. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you.